You know, in guitar education, doesn't matter if classical or electrical, a lot of people are telling you to have your thumb in the middle of the neck and your fingers aligned parallel to the fretboard. And I struggled with my left hand for a really long time. I practiced my ass off but wouldn't make any progress until I stopped listening to what they are saying and started looking into the beautiful world of biomechanics, and then I just simply did this. And holy fuck. Hey Guitar Champion, what's going on? I'm 𝗚𝙗𝙦𝗚𝗚𝗚, back from my practice dojo, and welcome to today's video. Before we begin, it's always important for me to say, if you have a different technique that I'm going to show it in these kind of videos, but you can play everything that you want to play perfect, effortless, and without any tension at all, then don't listen to what I'm saying. Don't watch my videos. Don't change the running system. But if you, like I used to be in the past, working your ass off on specific techniques but don't make any progress hitting one plateau after the other, it maybe makes sense to start rethinking certain habits in our technique and in our posture. And then you are welcomed to today's video. First, I want to have a little experiment for you. Shake off your hands really fast like this and really shaky, really relaxing everything in your arm and in your body, and then letting it falling down, hanging loose on your side. And now, without changing anything, I want you to pick up your left hand and to move your fingers as fast as possible, like this, like if you would be the next level fastest shred hero on earth. Now, I want you to listen to your body, and especially listening to what is going on in your arm. Now I want you, while moving your fingers as fast as possible, to rotate towards the supination, towards this direction, that your pinky is going to show to your body, like this. And watch what is happening in your body. Yes, you may already see it here. Let's go back. Let's do it a little bit faster. And rotate again in this direction like we would play guitar. Guitar like everybody's telling us. And back and forth. Do you feel something? Do you feel something here on this side? If yes, then my friend, you are even more welcome to today's video. Because what is happening here is one of the main sources, main reasons why we have certain issues in our endurance, in our flexibility, in our movement of the left hand. And I will explain you now why. First, let's take a look on the muscles that are required to move our fingers, especially to move this knuckle here, which is called the MCP joint, which is one of the most important joints to get our fingers on the fretboard. To get the finger down on the fretboard, we have this muscle here, which is called the flexor digitorum, and these muscles here in my hand, which are called the lumbrialis muscles. To get the finger in the opposite direction to flex it, we have the flexor digitorum right here. And you can perfectly see here that when I move my fingers, something is going on here in this muscle. I'm super sorry that I mixed up a little bit the terms extending and flexing. So just as a quick recap, this movement here, this one here, is called extending the fingers, especially extending the MCP joint. And this movement here is called flexing the fingers. Flexing requires these muscles and extending requires this muscle here. All right, now let's continue. And even though that in guitar playing we are not really flexing our fingers, we still need this kind of motion in the joint, because first of all it is required in the pull-off technique, and second we need this muscle here to get our finger from a pressured position where we are pushing our finger against the fret again to a relaxed position where we're just lifting it up again. One of the two main muscles, the flexor digitorum and the extensor digitorum, is well trained in speed, in force and power, and the other muscle is not so trained. What do you think? Which muscle is more trained and which muscle is less trained? Well, I'll give you the answer. The flexor digitorum, this one, that we have here on that side, plus the lumbrialis muscles, they are more advantaged when it comes to force, to speed, or to overall training and precision. Why is it so? Because this emotion here is a motion that we human beings, training for 100,000 of years, I think. Since we are apes, we are training our hands to grab onto something like this. But we're not really trained to do something like this, to extend our fingers. We are trained to flex our fingers. That's why these muscles are a little bit more advantaged when it comes to overall training compared to this muscle, because just in general in life, we don't need that muscle here so much. But we need that muscle for guitar playing. So now about what is happening when we are rotating our wrist? Well, we're not really activating the extensor digitorum because the rotational muscle is not really connected to the extensor digitorum, which means this movement is not necessarily against the AUCE, avoiding unnecessary consumption of energy rule that I've designed, for example, for the Biomechanics of Speedpicking, a free ebook that you can download in the description box. But what is happening is we are stretching that muscle. And by stretching a muscle, we are losing a lot of flexibility, endurance, and strength of this muscle. Like for example, when you compare it to a bicep curl, the moment where we have the most resistance against our biceps is the moment where we are stretching our arm like this. Here it gets much easier. Here it is super hard. Why? Because we're stretching this muscle. This is called length-tension relationship. The range of motion is blocked, the endurance is not really there, so a lot of disadvantages for the movement. And that's why I started to hold the neck not anymore in a parallel position where the fingers are parallel to the fretboard so that we can align them like this, but more in a relaxed position where we don't stretch unnecessarily and don't activate unnecessarily any muscle. We have to rotate in when we're going from a higher to a lower string. That unfortunately is inevitable, but it also has to do with one of the few things where our individual anatomy has an impact on the posture in our playing. Because the bigger your hands is, the easier it is to stay in the relaxed position. And the smaller your fingers are, the harder, the earlier you have to rotate in. I'll give you two examples. Paul Gilbert has massively huge hands. I shake them last year. I hold his hands. He has big hands. When you watch some of his videos, he can easily be in that kind of relaxed position where no muscle is stretched, no muscle is bended, but he can still play on the lower strings with even some high stretch pentatonic shapes. And then on the flip side, we have my good friend Eric. Eric is from an LA band called Nox Sinister, one of my favorite underground independent modern metal bands. Highly recommend to check them out. And Eric has an extremely small pinky, which means he has to rotate extremely early when he's going from a higher to a lower string. So he has to be like constantly in a rotational position. And for the finger size, that is something that you have to find out for yourself. I can recommend one exercise where you just play the chromatic scale descending and try to find out at what point you have to rotate in so that your fingers align next to each other perfectly and smooth, and the other way around as well. But there are more couple of things that are quite important. One thing is we have to be aware that we're not flexing or extending our wrist itself. So this one should also be in a straight line like this. Like when you shake off your hands, again, that's always a really good comparison. Shake off your hands and then see, okay, how is your hand aligned? How is your wrist aligned? And that's the way how we should grab the guitar. The next thing is our thumb. My thumb sticks up here. Maybe it's changing here and there a little bit, but most of the time it is up here. I probably will make a whole video about the thumb itself, because the thumb is also quite interesting, and where we have the pressure, where we have to line it, why certain necks, even that they are called endo neck or endurance necks, are quite bad for our left hand, and more is coming to this channel, so you better subscribe now. And the second thing that is always important for me is that we don't want to have the flesh of our hand, the space of our hand itself, touching too much of the fretboard. Only this side here as the double lock kind of position, that is fine, but the rest of the hand should be free in the air and not touching the fretboard. Certain things change when we're going from single string playing to chord playing. But even in chords, we can use this kind of hand position and only have to go to a flexed or rotated position when we have like really big stretchy chords. So, but now you might ask, well, some people can play extremely well, even though that they are parallel and that they are flexed like this. Well, of course, you can compensate most of bad posture with a lot of training. Let me take, for example, one of my favorite legato players, Tom Quayle. Tom Quayle has, biomechanically speaking, one of the worst postures ever, but he's still the master of legato playing and left hand playing. I have huge amount of respect for Tom, not only for his musicality, but of course as well for his precision and his control in the left hand. But I know how much Tom, for example, trained and worked on this. And now, hot take, I assume that Tom would even get more out of his playing when he would change his posture. It may be a little bit of work in the beginning because he's really fighting against his habits, and fighting against habits we all know is quite difficult, but I think the end outcome of this would be incredible for Tom. But that's just my hot take. Tom, if you see this, please prove me wrong. Proving me wrong is one of the best things that we can do. That is generally something that I always tell to people, please prove me wrong, because the more we know about what is going on here, the more we know what is right and what is wrong, the better it is, even though for myself. I would love to be wrong, I would love to change things for the better, for my students, for you the viewer, and for me as a player and the whole guitar scene. So let's work on that together and prove me wrong scientifically, please. But again, as I've mentioned, we can compensate a lot with training, but we don't all have this amount of time to train and to work. And for me, this change led to an instant improvement in my endurance, in my flexibility, in my precision, and overall in my whole left hand playing. Even though there's still some work to do, don't get me wrong with that, but it helped a lot. And with that, we're coming to the end of this video. I hope you liked this little video. I hope it was useful and helpful for you. I wish you a lot of fun learning, practicing, and mastering the guitar. I hope I'm going to see you in my next videos. Cheers and power your progress. Bye.